Now it's time to turn to one of our reporters who've been out in the field from the very beginning. Action News Now reporter Laura Eng, live in Shasta County with the latest. Laura?
I'm here with Robert Duvall. He's the handler for Kepi, one of these beautiful canine crisis intervention dogs. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So first I just wanted to have you tell us a little bit of history about Kepi. What is her purpose?
So Kepi is from Canine Companions for Independence. She was originally going to be a facility dog, and once I was given her, we trained her into crisis intervention. So her primary function is to help support police, fire, EMS personnel during crisis, after crisis, and even before crisis.
And talk to me about why is something like this so important in terms of interacting with law enforcement?
Well, for all of us in public safety, we're taught to focus on the job at hand, but a lot of times after those really tragic calls, we just kind of move on to the next call. We really don't focus on how we're dealing with ourselves. So we're getting much better at the mental health and the psychological well-being of our personnel. So what Kepi is capable of is the pheromones that we put off when we're stressed. Kepi alerts to it, just like if she was a narcotics dog, say, and she was looking for drugs. So even though a person could be masking and looking well on the outside, they may be struggling on the inside, and that's what Kepi's specialty is.
That's incredible. And tell me, where have you guys gone? Do you travel a lot, and if so, how often?
So Kepi and I are part of the Yolo Solano Crisis Intervention Team, so we cover both counties of Yolo and Solano counties. But we have been sent far and near for incidents like this. This is our first time being called out with CAL FIRE to be part of their team. And Kepi is really the only canine in the state that's trained to do this. So when I met with CAL FIRE, they were very interested in seeing how we would do on an incident like that. And we've been here since Saturday.
Wow. And tell me, what has Kepi's experience been like so far with the firefighters? What have they been saying? What have they been doing when they're hanging out with her?
Well, it's kind of funny because we can't go anywhere without having to stop because everybody wants to say hi to Kepi. So even those folks that may not be struggling with anything, you remember that some of these folks have been gone from their homes for a long period of time. They're missing their family, they're missing their pets. So to see a dog on camp is like a magnet. They come right to her. We've had phone requests. So here in our office, different divisions on the base will call and say, hey, where's the dog? Can you guys bring Kepi over to this place, to that place? We've visited both of our helicopter bases, our air tanker base. We're just wherever we're needed, but we're also, we're just here for support, so we go to the briefings, we go to whatever we can.
And how is she feeling, do you think? Do you think she's tired yet?
Well, she does not like the heat. I mean, obviously you can see she's black with with very long hair. So what we try to do is give her breaks. So our building here is air conditioned. So I don't keep her out for more than 30 minutes, and then we get 30 minutes off. But she loves people, and she loves to do what she can. Up, she went. Now she's going to want your belly. Oh, yeah, she's a big ham. Just a big ham. Oh. Oh, yeah.
She could sense right now. We're both maybe a little stressed right now, kind of squatting right now.
Yeah, and it's hot out here.
It's so hot. But just tell me, what are some other significant cases? I saw your logbook, and it's truly incredible. For all of our viewers watching, Kepi, she travels with her handler basically every single day, going to different areas all over the state here. But can you just elaborate a little bit more on that, and maybe some of the most significant cases that you remember going to Kepi most recently?
I mean, I've been on multi-fatality accidents. We had one in the Yolo County that 6 people were killed in that single accident. But was even more tragic was 2 days after that, one of the persons that was killed in that crash, the sister was murdered just 2 days later. So I had to contact that mother a second time with a different death. I've lost personnel that I've worked with in accidents and then natural deaths. 12-year-old suicide that comes to mind that was the youngest suicide I've ever dealt with in my 30-year career, and was tragic, just affected our entire agency in Solano. But every call is unique in that, it's a different set of circumstances, so you just never know.
You really don't. Oh, yes. Kepi, we're going to give her something cold here. Oh, she's so sweet. And how old is Kepi?
So Kepi's 5. So Kepi, I got Kepi when she was 2, and she has been my partner ever since.
Tell me about what kind of training did you have to take her through in order to be eligible for something like this?
So Kepi was trained through Canine Companions for Independence for 16 months before she was capable of going to a handler like me. And then I worked for 4 months individually with her and a mental health specialist to teach her how to alert to those pheromones, because nobody had done that before. So we did 4-day-a-week training sessions where I would introduce her to that scent so she could figure out how to alert to it.
I thought that was a really remarkable point you made earlier, which is in regards to the pheromones, because in this job, all of you are trained, of course, to put your job first, and to not really think of your own personal emotions, your own mental well-being. But with something like this, it makes it a little easier to take down those walls. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I said, most of us in this profession, whether it's police, fire, or EMS, we're type A. I mean, that's almost a guarantee in our profession. And in most cases, we put ourselves second. I mean, we can be completely dehydrated or hurting, but we're still going to try to help that person. And we come last. So again, our mental health, our well-being, when you see tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, you have to know that it does affect us. I mean, when we lose a child, especially in our profession, most of us are parents, and it really tugs at your heart, because we want to win. We want to save that life, and when we can't, it crushes us. So having programs like this, being able to bring Kepi out, where they get some downtime and can love on her, and dogs are unconditional love and no judgment. Nobody's asking you any questions. It's just about time with her.
And one of the points that you mentioned to me before is that there is a difference between a crisis intervention dog and a therapy dog. In this case, Kepi is a crisis intervention dog.
Right.
Would you be able to explain the difference for our viewers who don't know that?
Right. So for most comfort dogs, that dog is for that specific handler, and I wouldn't even call them a handler, for a civilian who has some sort of a stress issue or maybe post-traumatic stress. That dog is trained to provide comfort to them and them alone. So Kepi's different in that she provides comfort and care for everyone. So her job is not taking care of me, but she does. But again, because she has that training to hit on those pheromones, it really ups the game, because we're not always honest about how we're doing. And again, she can alert me so that I can, again, contact them later and say, hey, do you want to talk about that call that we had? Or, and in our profession, I mean, most of us that have been doing this a long time, one particular incident could actually trigger a memory from 10, 15 years ago that they've buried away and they haven't dealt with. And all of a sudden you're on scene and you're like, you're crying or you're upset and you're like, I don't understand what's going on. So again, having her to be able to hit on those signs, and it just helps us identify that stuff.
And on a national perspective, because you said, as you know, there's only one of Kepi in the state.
Right. So about a year ago, another chaplain in Louisiana contacted me and had read about Kepi and said, how did you do that? So I worked with chaplain. His name is Bart Leger. He's in Louisiana, and he works for a police and fire agency. So I put him into contact with the Canine Companions, helped them work through all the policies and procedures, and he was given a dog in April. They trained, and her name is Treasure, and she's just like Kepi, and they are we call it Team 2. So they are now in Louisiana. doing the same work that we do.
What would you say in terms of the impact you've seen working with Kepi, in terms of, do you hope that this becomes more mainstream in the future and that there are many more Kepis out there?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I love the fact that we got to start this program, but I would love to see every agency have access to this kind of a program, whether they do it themselves or whether they use a neighboring agency that has a dog.
And I would love to know a little bit more about your personal background here. How did you end up deciding to start a program like this?
So I started in public safety in 1986 and I retired in 2012. So I did the fire paramedic for a while, and then I became a peace officer, and I retired from Contra Costa County in 2012. And I just, you know, saw the need. Now, one of the things that's not really publicized very much is that in law enforcement and fire service, the suicide rate's about 20 a day in the United States. And it's been directly attributed to the post-traumatic stress that we are dealing with that we never handled. And my best friend, who I went with to the academy with, we worked together. He was the best man at my wedding, took his own life and in 2011. And it crushed me. And that was the last straw that really motivated me to do this. But I just have a love for what the folks that do this job put themselves through. I mean, you know, we right now, you know, there's been a lot in the last few years, a lot of hate on the police. There's also been, you know, ambushes of policemen, firemen, things like that. So we already have an incredibly stressful career. People don't call us when they're having a good day. They call us when their worst day's happening. And so call after call after call, that's what we're dealing with. And then we, of course, have a family to go home to afterwards, to love on and deal with. But they don't get to see firsthand what we're seeing and what we're doing. So I just think it's crucial that we have to take care of ourselves, not only physically but mentally as well.
Absolutely. Oh, look at her right now. She's so sweet. Just getting a sip of some water. And then also the director as well would like to speak to us as well for emergency services over here. We would love to introduce you guys to the director here. Would you mind just kind of joining us over?
I can sit down with you guys
coming
too.
over here, yes. Come over here. We're just going to take Kepi in for a little bit, just so she can cool off for a moment. But thank you for joining me here. So what is your name?
My name's Nicole Schutz.
So talk to me about, what is the department that you lead?
I work for our employee support services, so there's 7 of us that are full-time staff. And my boss, who's Bob Ellis, is over here. I'm one of our battalion chiefs assigned to our program for the department. And really what we do is, our mission is to take care of our employees and their families. And kind of what we do here on the incidents is we have that same mission to help our family or their families, the firefighters are here, but also reach out to other agencies that are assigned to make sure the behavioral health is taken care of. You know, they're out there on the line, it's demanding, you know, we just want to make sure that there's a point for them or a place for them to come and seek some behavioral health, get some resources, and just kind of be here, you know, going out and laughing a little bit and kind of helping out. So that's what we're here for. So
I want to thank you for, first of all, letting us get a view on the inside in terms of how you are taking care of your crew members' behavioral health, because that's not something as often seen. We're always out there on the front lines. We're showing your hardworking men and women out there obviously doing their best work. But when it comes to coming home again to this camp, just taking a rest and kind of checking in with themselves again, it's wonderful to know that you guys also have their mental well-being in mind too. So I just wanted to ask you, how did you hear about Kepi, and how did you think to bring her on board for this?
Well, we started using a couple dogs from other private agencies a couple years ago during some of our major events that we had, and we just saw the impacts of how the dogs work with folks, how they work with our employees, and even the folks just running the camps. That are preparing the food, that are, you know, whatever it may be, the dispatchers, and just the effects of dogs. Finding out about Kepi and some of the other programs was just, a lot of it was word of mouth. And then just reaching out and allowing them to come and kind of help with that behavioral health. So a lot of word of mouth,
I understand this is the first time that you guys have reached out and you're partnering together. What did you think of in terms of the reaction of your firefighters when they were spending time with Kepi? What was that like?
You know, they love the dogs, and you know, sometimes it's all about the dog and not about us, and it's nice. It's the dogs, what we find is kind of that segue for people to open up, especially if you don't know somebody. Just walking up to someone, they may not be so much to say, hey, this is what's going on with me right now, but you have the dog, and the dog is a tool that we can use to allow people to feel comfortable. And we really find there's a lot of people, when they start petting the dog, they kind of feel that trust, and they start to open up, and it's different, you know, and that's kind of that conversation piece where they see something different in fire camp. And we've started doing this in the ICPs really good this year and last year, and people just open up. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a dog in camp, and it kind of brings them in, and then we can start to talk and get a feel of how they're doing and help them. So it's just an amazing resource out there. And a lot of us on our employee support services team, we're really finding out the effects of animals, whether it be equine or, you know, whatever, dogs, chickens, whatever. We're really finding that there's a connection. There's that human connection that draws people in with the animals, and it's just a resource that we have. It's wonderful.
What are some other ways that CAL FIRE makes sure to check in with their crew members' behavioral health besides Kepi?
You know, we work really well with our wellness program for CAL FIRE. We work really close with our safety program, and just ensuring that if there's hot topics out there or something, trends we may be seeing, we work really well with the other programs in our department, and a lot of good support. So that's kind of what we offer it all the time. So yeah.
Thank you so much for being so transparent with us about the behind-the-scenes efforts. I know our viewers are very excited to, hopefully see an end to this sometime soon for the sake of your crew members. So thank you.
You are so welcome.
Pleasure meeting you.
And thank you, too, for allowing us to deliver this message out there to folks. So
of course. It's our pleasure. Thank you very much. That wraps up our coverage here at the Shasta County Fairgrounds. I'm going to bring it back to you guys, but I just want to make sure to highlight once again how grateful we are to the crew members here, everyone who is responding to this fire, because as the member of the media, we have seen nothing but absolute sacrifice on your part, and being here today, it's a very emotional day, just seeing how a simple interaction with a dog here can make, your crew members' day so much better. It's very touching, because I think bottom line, that just emphasizes what we all have in common, which is that we're human, and that we all feel, and that, at the end of the day, it's wonderful to have something like Kepi around. So
great.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to bring it back to you guys. We're now reporting live at the Shasta County Fairgrounds. Laura Eng, Action News Now.
And thank you, Laura, for that live report.